Good morning. Today we are looking at 7 chords. So if you looked at the previous videos, we learned all about triads, which are chords made up of 3 notes. And today we're looking at 7 chords, which are chords made up of 4 notes. They're called 7 chords because the note we're adding is the 7th of the scale. So previously, triads, when you build them, you look at that scale. For example, let's take C, and it's the 1, the 3, and the 5 of a C scale. That's a C chord. The C, D would be 2, E is the 3rd, F would be 4, G is the 5th. So you have a C, an E, and a G. Those are 1, 3, 5. Now to make it a 7th chord, you add the 7, which would be a B. And depending on how we manipulate it, if it's flat, double flat, which we'll learn about, makes totally different sounds. So 7 chords, let's go to the whiteboard. Okay, today we are talking about 7 chords. 7 chords. Just one step above a triad. So if you know all about triads, those are chords made up of 3 notes. These are chords made up of 4 notes. Okay? Now there are still, just like triads, mainly 4 categories of 7 chords. There are some subcategories within 2 of these, but still 4 main ones you're only going to ever have to worry about. So here they are. First, major 7 chord. Okay? 2, dominant 7. I could also write the 7 in here. 3, minor 7. Now this is one that has a subcategory. There's also a chord called minor major 7. And we'll talk about what that is. You don't see it too often. It's a real, there's a specific use for it. So, and then 4, diminished, and subcategory half diminished, which is new. Okay, so those are the 4 main categories of 7 chords. Let me draw this out for us. Okay, we have our C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So 7 notes. All right, so let's get into this. Each one of these has its own function, just like the triads. When you get into jazz specifically, you almost never, ever just play a simple triad. There's always something that gets added on to it. So where these come from is, when you're looking at sheet music, a triad is stacked in thirds. They look just like the snowman we talked about. Here it is on the lines. All you're doing when you are playing a 7th chord is you're adding one more. You stack one more third. All right, so there are your 4 notes all in a line. It's just a matter of which notes you're picking, and what that last note is really affects what the chord sounds like and what it's used for specifically. So let's get into how to find these. What are they used for? And what notes are in each one. So similar to the triads, there's an easy way and a more drawn out way to figure these out. just like the triads, to do the easier way, you need to know your scales, your keys, to be able to rattle them off. So we'll do the long drawn out way first. We'll see why these are made the way they are. And hopefully it all makes sense. And then the easy way will come down the road. So start with major 7. It starts off just like a major triad. Okay, it's a major 3rd interval, and then a minor 3rd interval, and then a major 3rd interval. So let's do this with C. We'll do C, and this is also, these are the symbols too. Sometimes it's major 7. Sometimes you'll see it as a triangle. That also means major 7. So let's spell these out. We start on C, obviously. We'll go up a major 3rd, which we know is 4 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. We got our E. We go up a minor 3rd, which is 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3. We get our G. And finally, another major 3rd, which is 4 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we hit B. Okay? So all 4 of those notes played together, you're playing a C major 7. And that's what that is. Okay? Let's go on to the next one. Dominant 7. And that looks just like this. Pretty rarely you'll see it DOM 7. It's pretty rare you would see that. Most of the time it's just this. It just says whatever chord you're trying to play with a 7 next to it. Now this is a little confusing, as you'll see when we spell this out. Okay, so we'll start on C. This is a major 3rd with a minor 3rd and then a minor 3rd. Okay. So similar to this, just the last thing is different. So we'll do major 3rd first, 1, 2, 3, 4. Minor 3rd, 1, 2, 3. And then a minor 3rd gives us 1, 2, 3, B flat. Okay. Now that's a C7. That's the shorthand for it. Dominant chord, C7. Now this is where the weird thing comes in. The chord name with just a 7 means a flat 7. This isn't usually in the key of C, and we'll go over that when we get to the easy way of doing this. But so I always thought it was a little weird for it to be C major 7. You need to add this major or make it a triangle. Just the clear cut C7 means you flat the 7. I always thought that was a little weird, but anyway, that's that. Go on to the next one. C minor 7. With a little m. Just like when you look at a triad, C minor would be C little m. Sometimes you'll see it with just a minus sign. All right, that's another way to write C minor. Okay. So similar to the triad, it's a minor 3rd, major 3rd, minor 3rd. So start on C. 1, 2, 3 gives us E flat. Major 1, 2, 3, 4 gives us G. And then a minor 1, 2, 3 gives us B flat. Okay, C minor 7. Now the minor major 7 thing here, you don't see it too often. If you do, it's most definitely a jazz piece, and it's a real specific sound. You can kind of think James Bond. It's just kind of a curious, oh, I wonder what that is kind of moment when you play that. And all that is you make the last interval a major 3rd. So this would be like that. But you don't see that too often. And that it would be written like this. It would be C minor major 7, like that. So it's really long and drawn out, and you don't see it too often. So anyway, that's the subcategory of the minor 7. Okay, and then finally we have our C diminished. This is minor third, and minor third. 3 minor thirds top for each other. So we get C. We know minor third is E flat. Another minor third, 1, 2, 3, G flat. And one more minor third, 1, 2, 3. We land on this note here. We're going to call this B double flat. That throws some people off, but we're dealing with the 7th of the chord. Okay? So it has to be called B. You can't call it A, because then we're talking about the 6th of the chord. If you lay out the scale like this, we're dealing with the 7th, and we're flatting it twice. You could flat it down to here, and you could call it B triple flat. You would never do that, but so that's what it's called. Now, where the half diminished comes in, and there's a couple different ways to write this. The symbol for diminished, first of all, is just a circle, like Fahrenheit, degrees Celsius, just a circle. Okay, or this could be. Now, half diminished. It's written a few different ways. C minor 7 flat 5. Or you might see a circle with a line through it. Okay. Now let's count it out. But if you just take a look at this, you might be able to figure out what it is. It's a C minor 7, which is what we have up here. And you would flat the 5. But let's count it out anyway. It's a minor third, and then a major third. That's half diminished. So we have a C. Minor third gives us E flat. Minor third gives us G flat. And a major third, 1, 2, 3, 4, gives us B flat. So the only difference between these two is the 7th note. The full diminished has a double flat, and the half diminished just has the single flat. So you see, the C minor 7 flat 5 is very similar to the C minor 7, right? Same note, same note, same note. We're just flatting the 5th of the scale, the G. Okay? Okay, so that's how you would write it out the long way, figuring out all the intervals. Now the easy way, just like the triads, is if you know your scale. You see this in a piece of music. You see C major 7. Well, how do I know what a C major 7 is? Just think to yourself, well, what's the C scale? Here it all is right here. Here are the scale degrees. Okay. Now C major 7 is 1, 3, 5, 7. Easy as that. Just skipping scale degrees. You don't have to worry about any accidentals or sharps or flats or anything, because they're not in the key. But that's why you have to know the key, because if we're dealing with like E, you have to know that it would be E, G sharp, B, D sharp. I mean, you need to know your sharps and flats. So, but once you do, you don't have to mess with any counting or anything like that. So, that's a major 7. 1, 3, 5, 7. Not changing anything, right? Based off the major scale, we can count the rest of these out. A dominant 7 is 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Okay? That's a 5, not a 3. Okay? Minor 7, based off the major scale. 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. Okay? Diminished 1, flat 3, flat 5, double flat 7. And finally, the half diminished 1, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7. That's how you would write those out. So, just for fun, let's do this. Let's say we're in the key of D. Okay? So, what I would do is I would just know this off the top of my head. Let me get a different color. Let's write these out. This is a D scale. D. Notice the F sharp. And notice the C sharp. Okay? Do the scale degrees. Okay, so from here, it's just plug and play, right? D major 7 would be 1, 3, 5, 7. 1, 3, 5, 7. Okay? That's a D major 7. What would be a D7? D dominant 7. Well, D, 3 is F sharp, 5 is A. We're going to flat the 7. So we have a C sharp. We're going to bring it down, right? Down 1/2 step to C. D, F sharp, A, C. That's a dominant D7. Okay? D minor 7. What do we have here? 1, flat 3. So our 3 is F sharp. We're going to bring it down 1. And what does that give us? Regular F. Okay? 5, A. And a flat 7, we already figured out, is C. Fully diminished. We have our 1. We have our flat 3, like we just did. Flat 5. Our 5 is an A. So we're going to bring it down 1/2 step. A flat. Double flat 7. So there's our regular 7. We flat it once, we get C. We need to flat it one more time to get C flat. Okay. Half diminished, 1. Flat 3, we know is F, because our regular 3 is F sharp. Flat 5, which is figured out, was A flat. And a regular flat 7, which we did here, is C. Okay, and those would be written D major 7 with a triangle, or could be, like we did with the C, could be written like that. Dominant 7 would look like this, or could say D dom 7. Minor 7 would look like this, D minor 7, or like we did it with the C, little n, D minor 7. Fully diminished, D little circle, that's fully diminished, or could be diminished. Sometimes you'll see a 7 here. And then half diminished, D circle with a line through it, or like we did it with the C, D minor 7, flat 5. Now it looks complicated, but I mean, spelling it all out doesn't make it too complicated. Okay, so that's how you spell out the 7 chords. Now, how do you use them? Well, you get to the piano or your guitar or whatever instrument you're using, and find the shapes for these. Spell these out and play them. What you'll find is that the major 7, right? Doesn't matter what letter you're using. It could be D major 7, E major 7, F sharp major 7, right? The major 7 is very tonic. It's very pleasing to the ear, okay? Right? I'm just going to write tonic next to this. Okay? Very pleasing to the ear. You could end a song on it. You could end a chord progression on it. Now, a dominant 7 chord. It's crunchy. It's leading. That's what I'm going to write here. Leading. When you listen to it, it makes your ear want something to come after it. It's packed with what we would call leading tones, and when we talk about tritones, we talk about what's called tritone. When we talk about intervals, we'll talk about what's a tritone, which is a real crunchy interval, and it just makes your ear. It pulls your ear to want something to come after, right? So you would never lead or end a song on a dominant chord. It's just not going to sound right. It's great in the middle of a progression. If you're trying to go somewhere, it's a great tool to be used for direction. And you see a lot of that in jazz, okay? You almost would never end a progression or a tune on a dominant 7. Unless, of course, you're trying to be cheeky, and that's what you want. You want it to sound like it's not over. But usually the listeners aren't too happy with it. So that's that. Now, D minor 7, it could go either way. It could sound tonic, and it could sound leading, all right? And when we talk about chord progressions, specifically in jazz, you'll hear more of this, about the 2-5-1 and why it works, but you feel free to end a progression on it. But it's great in the middle. You can lead things too as well. Now, these last two, the diminished and the half diminished, these are as crunchy as it gets. I'm going to write leading next to both of these. Okay? Even more so than the dominant 7. Both these chords make your ear want to go somewhere else. And there's some great uses for these. Great for substituting chords, actually, which we'll get to way down the line. But that's about as crunchy as you can get. You would never end a song on it, unless, of course, you're being cheeky, and that's the sound you're going for. But if you're going with what's pleasing to the ear, and the human experience, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. These are tools to show direction of where you're going. Okay, so that's a little basic outline of the use of these chords. You mix and match how you feel. And I think that's enough information on this. So those are 7 chords. As always, just let me know if you have any questions. And I'll see you next time.